to see if you're giving a contract to somebody, what is the status is there. And a technology like XR, today or extended reality, is extensively used in that particular thing. Well, these are 3 points. I can share more with you, but that's where I will leave it.
Indeed, absolutely right said, and sustainability no longer is an option. In fact, it's a cornerstone for any respectable organization when it comes to developing solutions, considering that the kind of situation we are in now as a global family, right? So, staying with technology and engineering, your thoughts on Srikanth, and what are the kind of demands that you are receiving from your customers and prospective customers as an engineering service provider in the EV space? Because now it's with the entry barrier in this industry being relatively lower than the ICE vehicle industry. So there are dime a dozen of startups, OEMs, whatever you may like to call them. But in terms of the key ones, when you want to really differentiate themselves, so which are your focus areas also when it comes to proactively developing solutions which perhaps you would like to pitch to your respective customers?
I'll probably digress a bit to start with how exactly engineering service provider is part of the family, so to say. If you look at, and we had inputs on what is driving the EV space today, it's of course electrification, but more so even in growing regions, we have also the need for connectivity and the need for automation. And this is a space where things are moving very fast, right? So if OEM or a startup wants to get everything right, they need to do 5 things right. They need to define, they need to design, they need to manufacture, they need to sell, and they need to service. And it's quite difficult, especially because it's, like I said earlier, a fast changing requirement. It's quite difficult for somebody to be good, really good at all of these at the same time. And that's where engineering service provider can step in, because they have focused competencies, they have the advantage of cross-pollination of best practices, and they have also the need to be extremely competitive because it's a cutthroat market out there. So they can step in, they can provide either limited or complete portfolios which can support the need for the OEMs and the startups or the disruptive players to be competitive, right? And so if you're looking today at what all services are being provided by an engineering service provider, everything. It need not be that all of them are providing all the services.
From defining to
absolutely
service.
Starts from defining, because quite a lot of occasions when you're talking about disruptive players, they may not have the best idea of what is exactly going to define their product. There would be a good idea, and I know there are a couple of two-wheeler manufacturers, prospective manufacturers here. So, I mean, if you are looking at an entrant into the two-wheeler segment, there would be some very basic questions like, do you want a hub-mounted motor, do you want a central motor, or do you want swappable batteries, chargeable batteries, or you want your batteries fixed and on the floor. All of these things probably are not well thought out, probably are not defined unless you know what segment you're going into. Because we're going into 4,000 plus. So these kind of things these are areas where a service provider can bring in those insights, because they have already gone through these cycles.
And I'm sure at Hinduja Tech, considering that the legacy, I don't know how many of, it may not be common knowledge, the legacy of Hinduja Tech goes back to Defiance Technologies, which in US, Detroit-based, right? Detroit-based engineering firm, which was acquired by the Hinduja Group many years ago. So I'm sure you've got a kind of combination, the best of both worlds, more advanced North American engineering capabilities, and of course the frugal Indian engineering mindset.
And I mean, I need to admit also the fact that our association, our family association, so to say, with Ashok Leyland and Switch, that's also a plethora of knowledge that's available.
Yeah, right. So when we're talking about vehicles, the tires help the vehicle connect with the road on which they run. Well, tires are tires, but no, tires are not just tires when it comes to EVs. You have much lower roll resistance, that's very basic. And considering that the inherent higher torque nature of EVs and the acceleration, therefore more wear and tear. So how are you tackling these twin challenge of lesser wear and tear to take, and also to ensure that there is even lesser road resistance, and not to mention the making them lighter as well by doing all this.
I think, and rightly pointed by you, I think eventually rubber has to meet the road. Vehicles once built in, they have to deliver what the consumer wants. I think we're dealing with two different worlds. We have an IC engine world, we have an EV engine world. Vehicles are different, consumer is the same. Clearly, consumer expects and will kind of continue to behave with the vehicle exactly the same way he behaved earlier, right? And that is a bit of a challenge because the expectations are the same. The build of the vehicle is different, whether it's got to do with the initial thought, as you mentioned, or for that matter, cornering. Everything is absolutely changed. What typically happens in a technical challenge is one, you can of course clearly start looking at from a tire building standpoint of view, from a raw material standpoint of view, and whatnot. But more importantly, I think the first and foremost piece is to ensure that consumer expectations are kind of met. It's very fungible today. Consumers we see in the country that they're very fungible between IC engine tires and let's say an EV tire. And but the expectation in long term doesn't match, right? Tire mileage is something that the Indian consumer wants, which he won't get. Yeah, he or she won't get, when you kind of swap it so conveniently. So I would say the first most important piece is to meet this customer requirement, right? Technically, cornering, tire build is very critical. The second piece is the world of sustainability, right? We deal with, as CEAT, we have interest in all categories. In the commercial space, as much as vehicle transformation is critical, sustainability is very, very important. For us, learnings from the world of EV has allowed us to kind of treat EV as a separate platform. Wind energy is the platform that we work on. But more importantly, eventually leading into, let's say, fuel efficiency. Right? That's important because that's what eventually the consumer is going to pay for. And when you look at the consumer front, which is both the two-wheeler and the passenger car, you also have one very strong element which the EV brings across, which is the element of noise. Right? I mean, we speak a lot about rolling resistance, but eventually the innovation, that at least CEAT brought across the table was in the space of noise. And the noise actually, if you look at it, there are two specific elements that brings across noise. Vehicles, vibration.
Mechanical.
Yeah, the mechanical piece.
And the tire.
And there is a certain element of, resonance which kind of picks up because of the frequency, right? The way in which the tire is actually designed. The vibration will need to be kind of nullified. So we have some new technology called CALM, right? It's a sort of a filter which kind of goes into the tire, which kind of, elevates the sound. Definitely the vibration part of it. And the resonance is something which cannot be solved by anything else but only by the design. Right? I mean, the design has to be asynchronous. In that sense, the resonance is not created. High frequency is kind of nullified. So I think multiple cuts. I think I would still keep it consumer first, driving behavior, sustainability, savings. I think my R&D team definitely has a lot of challenges.
Very interesting aspects, some very interesting dimensions you have thrown in. Would love to come and see the design and development work in action at your facility.
Sure.
By the way, congratulations to CEAT team for bagging the Deming Award prize, which I believe makes you the first tire company.
Yes, Deming Grand. There are very few companies in the world which have been able to kind of accomplish this. Thanks for bringing it across. It is the first tire brand in the world to have won Deming Grand, and it's the first Indian company. It's not just pride for CEAT, it's also a big pride for the country, and we're very, very proud of it.
I mean, it's in more as the India story, as much as it is the CEAT story. Coming back to it, Tapan, this whole megatrends, especially electrification and connectivity, is also influencing the EE architecture. So tell us in terms of what kind of developments, further progression, evolution do you expect in this specific area of electrical and electronics architecture when it comes to EVs, mainly for emerging markets?
No, I think I see changes not only electrical architecture. I mean, many areas are known, like we know about the parts will change, EV parts will change, for example, motor, power, the battery, and there are a lot of unknown areas which are changing. I mean, in fact, the whole vehicle change. If you look at it, from the EV parts, that's one part of the change, which is the powertrain part. But the platform is changing. So you will see a lot of use of ultra high tensile steel, for example. Because the weight, you're adding 350, 400 kg weight. And you need to get efficiency. So EVs actually provide a lot of, I would say, beautiful engineering challenges to our budding engineers. You need to look at two dimensions. How do you optimize? How do you, pack design a battery pack which is lightweight, which will be crashworthy. At the same time, you make a vehicle which can sustain the crash energy, do the energy management, and make sure that it's robust. That's one part of it. Electrical architecture, of course, is changing because, like Dr. Dinakar said, connected is a must for EVs. So once you get into connected, all platform parts, the body control, the engine control, the powertrain control, or the motor control, the display information control, everything gets connected. And you need to have a right kind of cyber security and CSMS kind of management system in the vehicle. So all the electronic parts get affected with respect to EV. Another part is the energy management. I think for a country like India, where we have a challenge of various terrains from cold to hot, how do you really do the HVAC, the heating, ventilation and cooling system energy management? It also has a challenge. So challenges are challenges, they provide opportunities as well. For example, look at evaluation of EVs. So how do you do evaluation of EVs in a sustainable manner and make sure that you are looking at all the burnout cases, you are looking at all the terrains, all the specific use cases, and make sure that the customer is safe and able to drive it with the high voltage system. So to me, I think if you look at it for the engineering community, electric vehicles provide really a big challenge and opportunity to learn and optimize things for India.
Because in the ICE industry, it has been incremental to some, maybe at best, some significant changes. Now it's going to be a dynamic whole shift. Absolutely. Indeed, for the engineering fraternity, it's a fantastic time to be in, and sure, I mean, with technocrats like you, I'm sure it will be an interesting journey as well. Yes, one thing about, I just wanted to, while we are talking about these EVs are also getting smart. Right? So, everything, I mean, considering with the connected vehicle trend is requiring all vehicles to become smarter and smarter. So, what kind of smartness quotient can help technology further pump into the vehicle without, of course, affecting the cost much? Because remember, I mean, when it comes to developing emerging markets where it's not extremely price conscious, but still there is not kind of an unlimited kind of appetite for price.
I would really like to introduce a term called Smartphonification. Smartphonification of your car. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of discussion for any business model. Have you Uberized your model? Is your model asset light from a business perspective? From a technology perspective, can we really make the car as a gadget, as a smartphone, completely easy to use and drive various applications within the car from an individual application perspective? And that again goes back to the architecture, what Tapan was talking about, whether you want to have a decentralized, earlier it was just one ECU covering, now we have multiple ECUs to cover, and it's coming to a centralized architecture. So we have different apps for different functions of the car. That would really kind of help the whole driver or the user to use the car in a more effective way. And you can also very easily localize and identify the defects in a particular area and for it to go and fix in that particular area. So I think that's a trend that people are using. I don't think it's going to be, if you look at the younger generation today, they're really not so keen in driving the car. And for some of those people who still want to ride a vehicle, let's say Royal Enfield, with an EV, it's no more making a noise. We are working with them to ensure that with EV, how can you introduce that old noise as well. So always people believe that acoustics is reduce the noise, but it's also introducing a signature noise for the the whole noise. Even if you're riding an EV, so we're kind of doing a project on that as well. So those people who are still interested in riding but want also sustainability aspect where we can help them to get an experience of what it was in the ice age with this new technology. But many youngsters today don't even have a license. Many youngsters today don't even want to ride a car, don't even want to own a car. And for them, they want the car to be just like a gadget to really kind of run, easy to use, easy to kind of manage, easy to kind of maintain.
Yeah.
And they want upgrades happening over the air. So you don't want to send your car to your service center to upgrade certain activity. You want all those upgrades to happen just like what happens on your smartphone. Just over the night, you want to upgrade your braking system, you want to upgrade your cooling system, and that kind of happens. And that's a trend. You don't have a choice. So customers demanding that way. It's a customer voice, and we have to deliver what we have to really give what he really wants.
Last words from each one of you. Again, starting right at the end. Tapan, in terms of the EV megatrend growing in India especially, generally at the end of this decade, we are about 6-7 years away. What kind of penetration do you expect for electric EVs?
I can't give a definite number, but the projection is about between 15 to 20% in passenger vehicles in particular. That's the kind of trend which is being looked at. And of course, we'll see a penetration of a lot of strong hybrid vehicles as well, which is another form of electrification and provides the right kind of opportunity for people for the ecosystem development. It helps in ecosystem development for EVs as well. So these two together could be 35% or more.
Okay. The space is there, it's time's up, but before I end this session, I would like to request each one of you, panelists, to share your view on whether it's time to really look at this definition or relook at this definition of emerging market in India, because when it comes to electrification megatrend, unlike in the ICE era, where at one end of the world there was a V6, V8 and V12 and whatnot, and on the other end where we have even a two-cylinder car. So, but those things are gone. One EV powertrain is almost same as other EV powertrain, and different thing only the battery pack and maybe the motorcycle. So, is it is it time to kind of relook at this definition of emerging market in India, or is it more time that we look at this whole thing when it comes to developing on a global level? Starting with you, Srikanth, and within 30 seconds, if you
Well, I have 30 seconds. I would say that the Indian consumer has arrived. The Indian infrastructure has not probably arrived. And it's a challenge for the industry to support both the expectation of the consumer as well as the pitfalls which are today available because of the infrastructure or the lack of it.
I wouldn't be too bothered with the tagline of emerging or otherwise. But more importantly, I would say that India is poised well. I think we have a golden opportunity to take the EV wave far stronger than the penetration that we see today, which is largely still limited to, let's say, the scooter ecosystem in the country. So India is poised well and really looking forward.
My view is any disruption helps the developed economy and the developing economy back to square one. We are all on the starting line once again, because they had a lead in IC engines or whatever technology was there, but today when the new technology comes, all of us are on the same one. And India has shown to the world, whether it is in fintech space or in software technology space, we can actually be innovative and drive what is going to happen in the future. And I feel it's a great opportunity for us in EV, in autonomous, all related vehicles from a sustainability perspective as well. India has a great role to play, and India has one uniqueness about the whole thing is we can really teach the world a capitalism which is a threat of spiritualism. Inclusive world, inclusive economy, and this concept of G20 as one world, one family, a concept is very, very powerful, and I think India is doing the right things, and India can actually kind of lead the world in these new sustainable technologies for us to really kind of help the whole world.
Thank you.
My view is that when you say emerging market, especially which Sridhar mentioned that it's the baseline has been set, but I think and the Indian companies are doing very well as far as the EV products are concerned. What comes to my mind is that we have been talking about Make in India, Made in India, but I guess design and Make in India is happening now, and this change which has been brought in by EV, I guess we are ahead of the curve, and for some more years, I think it's time that we strengthen our focus in that, come up with more innovative products, and I guess we will be the one who will be leading this across the globe. So I think we are on the right track, and with the leaders like sitting here, I think we are going to be ahead of everybody else. Yeah, thanks.
From Hexel Motors perspective, it was always a challenge to launch a vehicle at ICE vehicle price, so which means I need a good supply chain. So in terms of innovation, in terms of, let's say, motor or battery, we are working with many Indian companies as well. There are new technologies coming in terms of motor. There is switch reluctance, there is inductance. I mean, a lot of new innovations coming up by Indian companies. But the price point when it comes to motor controller, battery, the transmission is the major issue when it comes to from an Indian manufacturer. Getting a 2-speed gearbox was a huge challenge. Getting an axle was a huge challenge. So we had to design many of it in-house. So if I have to launch a vehicle at ICE perspective in that price range, I think we still are a little bit far away in terms of us getting completely made in India products at that price that I need to launch my vehicle in. Because my customer is not even ready to pay me the price that
I think that will happen as the scale grows,
yeah,
right?
it's still a work in progress.
Kaushik?
So from the macroeconomic point of view, the per capita income, the purchasing power, it is definitely an emerging market, but fast emerging. And of course, as a category, EV is definitely emerging.
Yeah, so the point what Sumatra you talked about, is it a barrier emerging versus advanced? There is EV democratized technology. There is nothing as a boundary. You do a motor of say 2, 3, 5 kilowatt per kg of vehicle, whatever the technology, it's scalable to any voltage. Any electrical engineer knows how easy to scale a machine and how easy to scale the power modules of the driver. And the software being the same. So the emerging to advanced automotive technology vanishes once you have the EV space. And the EV space, the hidden, I won't call it as an elephant, hidden jewel in India or an emerging market like ours, is the software capability.
Indeed.
Everything is underlying in the cloud or in the vehicle or in every board what we run is the capability to write code, write algorithms. Now with the AI, very smart algorithms, once you have access to data of running certain set of vehicles, will be a major advantage. It actually shifts the boundary towards advantage, towards markets where software is prevalent and used in everyday life like us. And so that way, this should be a hockey stick movement, and there will be a tipping point on which electrification will gain momentum very fast, and it will reach where it's supposed to reach. There is cassette man and disc man, there is no other man. So there is 120 mm film, there is a 35 mm film, there is no film. So there is going to be a day where there is going to be vehicles which are smarter and better and with no tailpipe.
That's an interesting perspective. I mean, the distinction between emerging and advanced is getting increasingly vanishing thanks to the electric megatrend. Last word from you.
I think Honorable Prime Minister has said that India should be a developed economy by 2047. And our job or our goal should be to provide mobility. Electric mobility is a means, not an end. So we should be worried about how do we provide mobility to all Indians at an affordable price point through whatever means possible. Be it IC engine, be it developed IC engines, be it CNG, be it flexible, be it strong hybrid or electric. So that's what I think our aim should be, to provide mobility to all Indians as they can afford.
A fantastic comment to end this session with. And indeed, as India progresses towards its mission to be a developed nation by 2047, and equally, if not more importantly, being carbon neutral by 2070, I think the mobility industry has a lot to contribute, and it will and it can contribute. So on that note, wishing you and your ventures all the very best on behalf of ET Auto, and thanks to you, the audience, for being such a wonderful audience, patients listening. I'm sure many of them, maybe a couple will have to rush to the airport, others will be available for offline chat. But back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Indeed, it was a very knowledge-driven session.
A big round of applause.
I request you all to come and put your hands together. Barua to kindly present a token of gratitude to our panelists, Dr. Tapan Sahu. Dr. S.J. Dhinganagar. Mr. Kaushik Onguli. Mr. S. Ramanathan. Mr. Parvinder Singh. Mr. Srikanth Dharmarajan. Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan B. Mr. Srikanth Sudhir. Gentlemen, I request you all to kindly come forward for a group picture, please. Thank you so much once again. And ladies and gentlemen, there is a short presentation